Artificial lake blocked by the landslide on the Tibetan side of the Nepal-China border has burst again, and high alert has been adopted in the riverine area of Nepal. The Nepal Police has issued a public notice and warned that a serious flood threat has arisen in the downstream area of Nepal after the dam formed in the upper area of China's Jirong border crossing burst and large volumes of water has started to move downwards. Police have issued an emergency warning requesting everyone on the banks of the Bhote Koshi and the Trishuli river and also in risky areas to immediately move to a safer place. All security personnel, rescuers and the general public deployed in the rescue and relief work have been asked to stop work and immediately move to safer locations. Well, those are the dramatic visuals on your screens right now. The catastrophic strike of a natural calamity is unabated when it comes to Nepal. The artificial lake blocked by the landslide on the Tibetan side of the Nepal-China border area has burst once again, and a high alert has been issued in the riverine areas of Nepal. The Nepal Police has issued a public notice and warned that a serious flood threat has risen in the downstream areas of Nepal after the dam formed in the upper areas of China's Jirong border crossing burst and large volumes of water has started to move downwards. The police have issued an emergency warning requesting everyone on the banks of the Bhote Koshi and Trishuli rivers and also in the risky areas to immediately move to safer locations. My colleague Verghese is joining me right now to get us more details on the story. Well, Verghese, we are playing out these visuals on our screens right now that while we are keeping track of all the developments taking place on ground as far as the flash floods are concerned, what we're given to understand that a landslide on the Tibetan side of the Nepal-China border has also burst again. Take us through the details of it.
Well, first of all, this artificial lake was being monitored, especially after the first glacial break and the floods that happened in Nepal. So the Chinese side was in fact monitoring the growth of this artificial lake. What they said is that this artificial lake was formed after the debris, probably on the Bhote Koshi rivers itself, had in fact gone ahead and blocked the flow of water, and it did swell up in that region. So they did warn that at least 500 million cubic liters of water has been moving into that river. When they last monitored, already reached 3 million cubic liters of water, which are almost around 1,200 to 1,500 Olympic size swimming pool of water is what we are looking at, and therefore they were already monitoring the situation and also warned that within the next 72 hours there could be a breach, and now that breach has occurred, for which they have given alert 4. What we understand is that on the Chinese side, or the Chinese Tibetan land port side, they've already given warning for personnel to move 1 kilometer away from the riverbed area, and they've asked the rescue personnel in Nepal to immediately stop work and to move 1 kilometer away from the riverbed area. So all of them have given a 1 kilometer buffer zone on both sides of the riverside to ensure that people do not in fact come in the way of this latest flow of water. So will this breach help in draining that complete artificial lake is something that the authorities are also looking at, because that would mean that an imminent danger would in fact pass away if the water is completely drained. But the issue is also with regard to downstream rivers. And when we look at downstream, the situation is that many of them have already been evacuated. Areas along the Bhote Koshi river has been evacuated. But the swelling waters could have a later impact when on rivers as they move further downstream that crosses from Nepal and towards India. So the water levels could in fact see a rise as the water moves further downstream. So that is something that the authorities are in fact looking at. But right now, what we understand is that the Chinese have informed the Nepalese authorities saying that there is a breach in that artificial dam. But right now, they have not actually spoken about the nature of that breach, whether it's a huge sediment bouldered and water that is coming in down or downstream, or is it just the water that is passing through. That is something that all of them are waiting. But all eyes are on this particular situation, and officials who have been at the site, all of them evacuating as they were given this alert immediately. Even on the Chinese side, they are on high alert, and reports are also coming in that the Tibetan Autonomous Council would also be meeting with regard to this artificial dam burst that has occurred.
Absolutely, Verghese. Now, what we are given to understand is that owing to this particular landslide on the Tibetan side of the Nepal-China border, the Nepal Police has also issued a public notice and warned that the serious flood threat has arisen once again. Now, while there has been emergency warning requesting everyone to move away from the banks of Bhote Koshi and Trishuli rivers, they have been asked to go to safer location. And since they're already battling the flash floods in Nepal, how many of these camps and safer location are still there for people to be taken to?
Well, there already one thing that's happened, Samay, is that most of these settlements have been, in fact, cleared out after yesterday's incident itself. So most of these camps are located far away from these riverbeds. The threat is mostly for the rescue personnel who are there, who've been trying to, in fact, carry on with the rescue work. And it would also complicate it further if more debris is being deposited in these areas. Already, several parts of these riverside towns have been completely submerged with water and debris, and they were finding it difficult to, in fact, move in those locations. A few families had come back, but now what we understand is that the Nepalese authorities have asked these families not to come to take any kind of belongings or others until the clearance is given from the government and the local government as such. So clearly they are, in fact, restricting that as well. So most of them have been cleared out when it comes to the downstream, but how much of downstream has been cleared is still not known. The impact, as I said, downstream is still to be assessed. Now, how much of water is already flowing in is also not known, because last time when it happened, it was the overflowing water from the lake, and this is a breach that they are, in fact, talking about. So all these unknown factors are still there, but the authorities, however, been able to give an early warning of sorts, asking to people to move towards higher reaches and away from the riverside.
Absolutely, Verghese. Thank you for getting us all those details. We shall leave it at that for the moment.